Good morning, everybody. My name is Alexis Kallio, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher at Sibelius Academy. The working title of my research plan at the moment is Sami Stories of Inequality and Visions for a Socially Just Basic Arts Education in Finland. Finnish basic arts education institutions are often criticized for systematic inequality through teaching that actively seeks talent, through prioritizing certain musical styles over others, and the division of students into groups of talented and the rest. However, institutions are established and allocated funding at least on the basis of a principle of equality. Resources are provided depending on the size of the population that the institution serves and the number of students taught. However, the further north you go, the fewer people there are, to the point where there are practically no arts institutions beyond Rovaniemi, the capital of Lapland, with still about a third of landmass left to go further north. Further north is also home to a large proportion of Finland's Sami population, who are effectively excluded from participating in basic arts education as the result of this principle of equality. Furthermore, basic arts education does not typically offer any education in Sami arts or address any Sami content or pedagogies in the curriculum. A young Sami in Inari can travel over 300 kilometers south if they so wish and can cover the travel costs to learn the classical violin, but there are few government provisions in any part of the country for learning tuodi, Sami handicrafts, which, yes, in this research project I define as art. It's important to question this rhetoric of equality and ask how it's experienced by those it is applied to. It is also important to note that there is a great potential for positive consequences as well. For instance, one result of the lack of institutions is that the Sami have made huge advances in online learning to address the needs of students in remote areas. This has constructed new ways to teach and to learn, which are now available to others throughout the entire world. So it's not all necessarily doom and gloom. My research project aims to understand something of the experiences of the Sami in accessing or participating in basic arts education and envisioning new possibilities for the future. As such, my first research question focuses not only on the distribution of resources, but also educational content, asking what are the affordances for or barriers impeding opportunities for meaningful participation in basic arts education among the Sami in Finland. My second research question looks forward, asking how do Sami leaders, educators, and artists envision a basic arts education that works towards social justice in and for Sami communities in Finland. I'm writing this research plan having defended my doctoral dissertation last year that focused on secondary school teachers' popular repertoire decisions. I'm not an expert in indigeneity, nor Saminess. I may not be one of the Finnish colonizers, but being a white Australian born to white South African parents doesn't help me much. I'm also working with some of the most researched communities in Europe. I organized a couple of preliminary meetings last December and was met with considerable wariness by a number of Sami educational leaders, which I suspect was justified. In acknowledging my ignorance and challenging some of the power relations embedded in traditional research approaches, and in trying to establish an open and trusting relationship between myself and the Sami communities I'm working together with, my research aligns with the approach of Indigenous methodologies as put forward by Margaret Kovacs. Indigenous methodologies acknowledge that Indigenous peoples' interests, knowledge, and experiences must be at the center of research methodologies and construction of knowledge about Indigenous peoples. This means first and foremost that every step of my research is planned, implemented, and communicated in collaboration with the Sami. This process begins in just a few days when a small group of Sami researchers at the National Archives will be looking over my research plan and offering their suggestions and corrections. My responsibility in this study is to the research participants. One approach in keeping with this Indigenous methodology is narrative inquiry, and through the use of story as method. Based on interviews that I plan to conduct with Sami leaders, arts educators and artists in Finnish Sapmi, Oulu and Helsinki, I will work together with the research participants in a collaborative, reflexive and participatory process of storying and restorying. Through crafting stories together, my research aims towards an accurate, respectful and ethical representation of Sami voices and experiences. In this way, and in Kovac's words, I'm looking for ways to understand the world without harming it. The questions addressed in my research do not simply attend to the Sami problem. As Michael Apple reminded us yesterday, these sorts of phrases are back to front. There is no Sami problem, there is a majority Finnish problem. As the Sami claim their rights, they struggle for the recognition of their identity, or should I say identities, and political representation of these identities in broader society. However, the debates as to the legitimacy of such minority rights claims also construct narratives of Finnishness, and narratives of immigrants, cultural insiders, outsiders, us, and them. So all of these understandings are negotiated, and all of these problems are shared. And I'll leave it there, but if anybody has any comments or critique or suggestions, I'd love to hear them at any point today, or send me an email. I hope that was 5 minutes. I didn't get whistled.